One of the ways I'd like to start the show, Nate, today is to talk about the Travelers Championship, which just wrapped up yesterday. More of a birdie fest than I think we both had originally thought. Keegan Bradley sort of ran away with the tournament. He is like fifth in FedEx Cup standings, so it's not like he came out of nowhere, but he wasn't really on anyone's radar for this tournament. Hometown hero is from Vermont. People have been making a big deal about that as well. So I'll just say right here, like, the New England is New England. You're in Vermont, Connecticut, Rhode Island, whatever. You're the hometown kid. Might not be the same if you're in Georgia and you're playing at the Valero Open, but it is that way in New England. So he's the hometown hero. What do you think about old Keegan Bradley here? Big win for him. Should we be looking out for him in the future?
I mean, I think so. I mean, he moved up. He's right on the fringe now of just automatically qualifying for the Ryder Cup. He moved up 13 spots of the win, so he's sitting in 7th right now. I mean, he'll almost undoubtedly be a captain's pick when the time comes if he doesn't, automatically qualify. Although it is kind of an odd list of Ryder Cuppers that are automatically qualified. Your boy Wyndham Clark is 2nd in Ryder Cup qualifying,
as he should be.
A little bit of a strange list. Compared to recent years.
Major winner, Wyndham Clark.
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of thought that Keegan was going to break out for a while. He's been on my betting card a handful of times recently. He's played like shit. But, he pretty much did what he does when he's playing well. He led the field in strokes gained approach. He's, always been a pretty good iron player. He's always been a little squirrely off the tee. Wasn't great off the tee at the Travelers. And I mean, the big thing, and I think the reason that it's hard to bet on Keegan in these sort of birdie fests, which we suspected they would go low. I mean, maybe not this low, was that Keegan often struggles with his putter, and he was first in strokes gained putting for this tournament, which was really, really huge for him. He just made everything he looked at, made everything when he needed it, and coasted to a victory. So, credit to Keegan. He's one of the good guys out there, and this is a huge win for him. He's said it many times that, was the first tournament he ever attended when he was a kid. Outside of the majors, this is the tournament he's wanted to win the most. So you could see the pressure sort of getting to him in a weird way that, like, maybe you wouldn't expect for just a regular tour event. But for Keegan, it meant a lot more to him, being from Vermont, sort of a proud New England guy, and then basically the first thing he says after he collects the trophy is, like, this is for all the kids that grow up in, like, the Northeast that, only can play golf like 6 months out of the year. And, you watch all these kids in Florida and the South, Dallas, whatever, that play year round, and they keep getting better and better and better. And, it's sometimes tough to stay motivated as a junior golfer in a less hospitable climate for year round golf. So, he was just kind of.
Yeah, it's not Alaska. It's not Alaska,
not.
but it's also not Georgia. And from being from Mississippi, I can tell everyone that the golf doesn't really stop here. I mean, there's maybe like 2 months in January and February where you don't really be out there, but you could if you wanted to. It's not like there's snow on the ground or anything like that. A lot of the courses won't close. I know up in where you are in Reno, sometimes it can be a challenge in the winter months, but they don't close as much either. In New England, they do close a lot. So that's very true. A couple things about the Travelers that I do sort of want to talk about. Number one is the stark contrast between the vibe at the Travelers and at LACC. We talked a lot about LACC last week and kind of the muted fan reactions at a major championship, which may or may not have allowed Wyndham Clark to win in a pressure-free zone. Regardless, it was even more maddening to see how basically lit the Travelers was. I mean, it was just
hell yeah. It was.
There were people everywhere because it's an awesome tournament, and we knew it was going to be like that. So it's pretty frustrating it just pisses me off even more that the LACC sort of constructed this major that was like a private viewing for their club members. And then we get back to real golf and we have, real fans cheering for a hometown kid in a blowout win.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was just a crazy difference. And I mean, not everyone was happy at the Travelers either. I don't have it in front of me, but Rory had some pretty unkind things to say about the Travelers Championship. Yeah. You want to bring that up? So,
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
for all the atmosphere is awesome, but like Rory just seems to be complaining about everything. He complained about LACC last week, and then he comes to an awesome tournament, and he's like, "Well, this tournament also sucks."
Yeah, I think he wants.
Like,
I
well,
think
then
he
what do
needs
you
to
want,
win a
man?
tournament. Yeah, he needs to win a
Yeah.
tournament. He keeps finishing in the top 5, and he's just making him mad. So Rory shot a 68, 64, 66, and 64, which you think would be good enough for a top 5. It was not. It was a T7. So that may be part of his frustration. He couldn't even get in the top 5 with 264s. Scotty, however, did get in the top 5.
Yeah.
So we should mention that. Best bet in golf right now, Scotty Scheffler, top 5. Whatever the juice is, plus 110, minus 140. Just take it. The dude's just a machine in the top 5. Here's what Rory said about the Travelers. I don't particularly like when a tournament is like this. Unfortunately, technology has passed this course by, right? It sort of has made it obsolete, especially as soft as it has been with a little bit of rain that we had. So again, like the conversations going back to, limiting the golf ball and stuff like that. When we come to courses like this, they just don't present the challenge that they used to. Basically saying the technology's outgrown the course. And if you're not going to lengthen the course or make it more difficult, then, we should go with the hugely unpopular ball that limits the flight in the air. Rich from a guy who hits it about 700 yards every time he gets up at the tee. So, I think Aaron Rye would maybe object to the idea of limiting the flight of the ball. Less so for Rory. But what do you think about this? I mean, is this just another sour grapes Rory moment?
Yeah, it feels like a sour grapes Rory moment. It feels like a lot of frustration. I think that he thinks that he's playing good enough golf to win golf tournaments, and he's just not. And I also think that's like bullshit. Like, that's not a real. Like, TPC River Highlands is usually a birdie fest. I mean, you go back and look at the scores at 16, 17, 20, 19. Furyk shot 58 here. Like, you have to go low to win the Travelers. That's just how it is. And I don't think that the last 2 or 3 years, distance gains that people have had, or the last 5 years or 10 years of distance gains that people have made this tournament less enjoyable. It's just different. And that's okay. Like, they don't need to play. Like, Rory's just pissed because there are certain courses that Rory can play, and there's probably only a legitimate 15 to 20 guys that have a real shot at winning on some of these courses, right? Like, if they pay like Bethpage Black or something in New York that's just long and brutish, like, Rory's an elite company of people that can actually compete there. There are a lot of guys that just can't, right? And what this sounds like, this comment sounds like to me, is Rory just being like, I just want to play courses where I have a bigger advantage because I don't have one here. Is sort of like what I hear when I hear that like comment.
Yeah, I mean, it's true that he competes more. He's always going to compete in places where he is an absolute, it's a long course where you have to sort of be sharp in every facet of the game, especially tee to green. Birdie fests are never I mean, nobody, I guess I had Rory on my card because he's been so good, but they're not exactly a place where he thrives because everybody else can go low, and he doesn't have as sharp an advantage. So it is probably just a little bit of sour grapes. I mean, I understand his point. The thing with Rory is like, even with
these guys are exhausted, right? I mean, that's the other thing. They keep scheduling these designated events right after a major.
Yeah, I mean, they play more than they ever have, especially someone like Rory, who, I mean, he plays a lot, but he would have taken this week off specifically. Absolutely. So, I mean, I think it's probably sour grapes. I also think that Rory is, the PGA spokesman. So if the PGA wants to start to introduce this idea of a ball that limits the yardage, then he's going to be the guy who does it. And what that means is just a year or two long campaign of him coming out saying this isn't competitive, it's not fun. We've outgrown these courses. The technology is too much of an advantage, because that's what he does. I mean, he is the PGA spokesperson, and he's happy, I think, to be in that role. So I think that there's part of him that's also sort of doing that as well. But another sort of sour grapes from Rory. I hope he wins a tournament soon. He's been playing as though he should, and I think he will, and it might be the Open. So we'll talk about that when we get there. Another golfer who has risen from the ashes like the Phoenix is Justin Thomas.
Oh God,
who
yeah.
finally had a good week. which bears the question, is Justin Thomas back? And this is specifically prescient because he's in the field this week, which is sort of a weak field. So our question here, Nate, is JT back?
I mean, I don't know. I think so. We'll talk about him a little bit when we get to the drivers. My initial knee-jerk reaction is probably not. Simply because the putter still, I mean, he jumped like 50, like he went from 150th just for the season in putting, and he like basically just put together a week where he was more or less just average and not a complete liability out there, and he was like 50th in the field in putting. So like, from that perspective, I mean, like you'd hope that maybe he's coming back, but everything else that he did is stuff that he's done well all year long. He's been fine with the irons, and his short game has been incredible. It's really been saving him. So I mean, he has one good putting week, and then suddenly we're like, oh, JT's back. I think that for me to really be super interested in betting on JT, I would probably need to see a little bit more stability with the flat stick, just because I'm not sure that 1 week shows us much. But that being said, if you want to ride Justin Thomas for the next couple of weeks and just see if that putter stays hot, I mean, now is the time to do it. You kind of have to get in on the ground floor of this, because he can be streaky, and he can, catch a hot putter for 2 or 3 weeks, pop up, win a couple tournaments, and then just sort of fade back into being, the sort of mediocre putter that he's been all year. It wouldn't be unusual for him to jump up and get a win here.
He's so streaky. I mean, T9 at the Travelers, cut at the US Open, cut at Memorial, T65 at PGA, Wells Fargo, T14, RBC Heritage, T25, cut at the Masters, Valspar tied for the 10th, tied for 60 at the Players, 4th at Waste Management, 5th at the Hero World Challenge in December. His game is sort of fallen apart because of the flat stick, lately. If you like him here, I mean, that's fine, because the grass is the same as it is at TPC River Highlands. Detroit has the same sort of bent grass Poa Anna, or maybe that's maybe I'm thinking of LACC.
No, I think we're still on bent.
Yeah, I know we're still on bent. There's some Poa Annua in this grass as well. Putting wise, strokes gained putting, he's 151st. So we've seen how that has plagued Scotty's game and basically allowed other golfers to win tournaments, because if Scotty was putting even in the top 50, he probably wouldn't be losing any tournaments. So I don't think there's much value here. Even in a field like this, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but Finau, Fowler, Sungjae, Hideki, really all those guys are playing better than JT, at least at a more consistent level. And so you really have to like what you saw at the Travelers in order to hammer JT. But of course, everybody is. I mean, you just Google his name and he's coming up on everybody's list because it's kind of a weak field and he's an elite golfer, and he can feast on elite on weak fields. He's not gonna miss the cut unless he just implodes. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and he's like unusually motivated because he's still like he's like kind of on the outside looking in for a lot of the FedEx Cup stuff. So he needs points. Like he needs to like get a win. Like it doesn't matter where it is, but he needs points like now. It's not like he's just playing this just to kind of pad his schedule.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I mean, that's the reason he's in this tournament. Finau likes to play these types of fields. Sungjae plays every week. Fowler, he probably doesn't need points. He's been playing well, but I think Fowler's kind of hunting for a tournament win.
He's a ton for a win, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, JT needs those points, so that's why he's playing. And so, he's motivated, and he's a guy who he can keep it loose when he's feeling good. He plays better than everybody. He's good off the tee, great with his iron game, but the putting is a mess. And this David Ross course, I mean, putting is important. These greens are tricky, so I don't really see this as a tournament where he thrives, but we'll see. You have to ask that question because you have to wonder if Justin Thomas is going to come soaring back and maybe show out at the Open. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the Open, Open's right around the corner. You got to be thinking about it.
his game's got to wake up, I think, a little bit. Speaking of waking up, Nate, I don't wake up without Beard Vet coffee anymore. I don't do it. I've got so much Beard Vet coffee in my pantry. It's insane. What I need everyone to do is go to beardvet.com. That's beardvet.com. Put in the promo code Godzilla for 10% off. This is what you're going to get. You're going to get some incredible coffee and a great selection. You go to beardvet.com, you're going to see all sorts of different types of coffee. Light roast, dark roast, Colombian, Venezuelan, all sorts of stuff is on there. If you like the whole beans like I do, you grab those whole beans, you grind them up, you put them in your pot, or maybe you just want them already ground. That's fine. Hey, listen, maybe you got a beard. They got beard tinctures too. Maybe you got a mustache like I do. You got to be able to take care of that facial hair. And they'll do the same thing there. One of a kind business model. And of course, the logistics is amazing. We love the swag too. So this is some of the best coffee that I can recommend. I drink it every morning. I love drinking Beard Vet coffee. I don't drink any other coffee. So you go to beardvet.com, go to beardvet.com and put in the promo code Godzilla, just like Godzilla wins, Godzilla, 10% off all your coffee needs, basically pays for the shipping. It'll get there in 2 or 3 days. You will not be disappointed. So go to beardvet.com, check them out as always.